We all know that politics is changing. No longer are politicians expected to make their case to the electorate simply in a television debate or from a catchy billboard. They're expected to play the game of social media. While some British politicians are particularly good at this, like for instance Nigel Farage and Zach Balansky, Prime Minister Keir Starmer really isn't, and appears either uninterested or unable to develop a workable social media strategy. So with this in mind, in this video, we're going to go through some broad rules that politicians should follow on social media, explain why Starmer seems to be breaking them, and have a quick look at how Starmer could address the issue. Never miss an episode and always feel in the loop by subscribing and ringing the bell. In this video, we're going to go through 4 rules that politicians should follow on social media to make their social media strategy actually succeed. Now, we should say off the bat that despite our millions of subscribers, we're not social media experts, and the rules aren't designed to be exhaustive or even necessarily designed to be followed to the letter. They're just broad observations of what has worked for other politicians, and why Starmer diverging from this hasn't worked out for him. If there's anything you think we've got wrong, or you think we should have included, let us know in the comments. Caveats aside though, let's get into it. Rule 1. Stick on message. This is one of the most important rules of social media. A good case in point is Zohran Mamdani, who used social media remarkably effectively in his campaign for New York mayor. But Mamdani's messaging was only effective because it was consistent and his platform was understandable. He'd make New York more affordable. This was all complemented by a good social media strategy that sold this vision. In other words, social media is a tool for politicians to sell their message. Without a message, it's just a vanity project. Now, we're not saying that Starmer has it easy. Other politicians can lean on their anti-establishment credentials and make this their central message. One of the reasons that, for instance, Zach Balansky is so successful is because his socialist, hopeful, anti-government message is easy to sell on social media. Similarly, Nigel Farage's brand of right-wing populism and particular focus on immigration gives him a clean, simple-to-explain message. But even if it's harder to use social media as an incumbent, Starmer is further hamstrung by the fact that, well, he doesn't really seem to have a coherent message. This is shown by the fact that, as Prime Minister, his government has presented a number of different priorities to the electorate, including 3 foundations, 5 missions, and 6 steps for change. Other governments have had a simple message that they returned back to. Think of David Cameron's relentless focus on the economy and reducing the deficit, or Boris Johnson's Get Brexit Done. These simple themes provide a good starting point for a social media strategy. In short, Starmer's lack of a clear central theme makes his work on social media just that bit harder. Rule 2. Avoid gimmicks. There's a temptation for politicians to assume that people on social media are younger and that they need to jump on social media trends in order to stay relevant. Generally speaking, this isn't true, and it's often this way of thinking that leaves politicians looking cringy. Take a look at Ed Miliband here.
Well, honestly, I was speechless when I woke up to your voice. Now you tell me how you've been feeling.
Or even Rishi Sunak here. Now, on occasion, this can work if it seems that you're in on the joke. Ed Davey's social media campaign in the run-up to the 2024 general election is a good example of this, and he was helped by the fact that he ruthlessly linked his stunts back to his arguments on adult social care. But it's generally quite hard to do, and it's worth noting that Davey wasn't really shoehorning his way into existing trends. Rather, he was just doing fun stunts, which was sort of consistent with his chill dad vibes. Generally speaking, it's better to stick with content that's consistent with your brand. The Tories generally have been pretty good at this. Their videos, particularly on Instagram, are well produced and designed for an older audience, which is the core Conservative demographic. Labour, on the other hand, are a bit all over the place. Have a look at some of these videos, for instance.
Allow me to reintroduce myself. My name is...
God, thank you for sunshine, thank you for rain, thank you for joy, thank you for pain. It's a beautiful day, yeah, 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 yeah. It's a beautiful day, yeah. If I 25
These are clearly intended for a younger audience, but they just feel weird. They're not consistent with the Labour brand, or more specifically Starmer's personal brand, which makes them feel almost uncanny. Is a fan cam of Starmer walking out of number 10, for instance, really changing anyone's opinion on him as leader? Will these videos break out and bring in a new audience for the government? Probably not. Rule 3. Be authentic and original. Now, we know that this is a little bit of a fluffy and unspecific rule. What we mean by this is that politicians should actually believe in the posts that they're putting out. People can spot insincerity a mile off. In recent years, the politicians that have developed their own formats have been the ones that seem to have succeeded the most. Look at Mamdani's brand of short, optimistic videos that clearly reflect his sunny personality. Or Trump's Twitter posts, which read like the sort of thing he'd actually say, and they're clearly not vetted by any sane social media manager. In the UK context, Zach Polanski's podcast seems to work by allowing him to discuss matters of interest to him at length with guests. Similarly, the explainer format used by Grant Shapps and Robert Jenrick, and more recently Labour MP Gordon McKee, similarly provide politicians with space to showcase their passion for a certain subject or policy. Occasionally, when he does slightly longer form things, Starmer seems to loosen up and does genuinely come across as an authentic, normal person. But most of the time, especially in time-restricted contexts, Starmer doesn't come across as authentic or passionate. He comes across as polished and clipped, which is the opposite of what you want in these sorts of videos. His background as a lawyer probably doesn't help here. Rule 4. Master a platform that reflects your politics. This is another pitfall that we see politicians fall into. You don't necessarily need to master all platforms. Some of the politicians we think of as being good at social media have selected one and tried to master it. Trump is good at X and Truth Social. Claudia Scheinbaum and Alexander Stubb are pretty good at YouTube, and Mamdani is good at Reels and Shorts. In each of these, they've mastered a platform that works for them as politicians. X allows politicians to be combative, Shorts and Reels allow politicians to showcase their personality and charm, and YouTube allows politicians to produce more factual content. Starmer clearly hasn't figured out his ideal format yet. His team did set up a Substack, which maybe could have worked, giving policy wonks and content creators an insight into his thinking, effectively relying on their reach and their content to get his message out. However, too little effort was put in here, and, as the FT has pointed out, it's too wonkish to be easy reading, but not really deep enough for wonks. As we highlighted at the start, these rules aren't meant to be exhaustive or necessarily designed to be rigorously followed. We just think they show the main reasons that Starmer's strategy isn't working. In the end, though, it's easy to feel like the UK has a lot of problems and is divided on a number of different lines. So, in the latest issue of our magazine titled Disunited Kingdom, we explore that, taking a look at the different dividing lines in Britain today, from the growing political divide to the fracturing of the Union, the North-South divide, the gap between young and old, and many more. It's not all bleak, though. We also discuss what unites us and how Britain could be fixed. As always, this issue of Too Long features a whole lot more than just our disunited kingdom. We also have our full ranking of the world's most influential people, including profiles of some of the highest ranking people, including Donald Trump, Xi Jinping, Zoran Mamdani, the Pope, Mark Carney, and even Jeffrey Epstein. There's also the fragmentation emerging within the EU, an examination of social media bans around the world, and how religion is being used by politicians, and much more. You can pre-order your copy at toolong.news, or to get the best deal, you can just subscribe to the magazine. Doing so gets you 20% off every copy for the lifetime of your subscription, and if you use code SPRING26, you'll get an additional £3 off your first copy, bringing the price as low as £4.99. Find out more and order your copy today at toolong.news.